Can you use exfoliator with bead extensions, JS? Yes, you can. Absolutely. So when I created this, right, we had in our clinic a fantastic scalp exfoliator, right? And it was our best seller, right? But it was like water. Okay. So literally it was so watery. So I was like, it was really difficult for people who had extensions within their hair. And even though extensions aren't great for the hair, shock horror, right? People wear them. So I'm not going to change their mind on that, right? So I had to make sure to create a scalp exfoliator that was extension friendly, you know. So the reason why Bye Bye Buildup is the consistency it is because it's more controllable than if it was like a watery substance. Okay. So what I would say is with extensions, first thing you do, give it a good shake, right? And you're gonna go from ear to ear, okay, all the way around there. You're gonna push it in. Then you're going to start at your splits, wherever you split your hair, and you're going to go all the way back, right? And put it all the way, like you shouldn't really have extensions up here, okay? So put it all over the crown of your head. Then what I want you to do is flip the hair. So let's say I have a tape or a bead or a bond here, okay? Can you see that? And I'm going to flip it over, and then I might put some Bye Bye Buildup on my finger and place it onto the scalp, okay? So you just have to make sure that you're not putting them on the extensions. And also, don't tell your extensionist I said this or your hairdresser I said this, but just deny that you're using one of these if one falls out one day, right? Just say nothing, girls and boys. But like extensions fall out anyway, you know. But I definitely would suggest that you do. People that wear hair extensions need scalp care more than people that don't wear hair extensions. Like, no brainer. You have sometimes a very permanent thing hanging from your scalp, right? So the more pressure you put on those hairs, the more implication it's going to have down here. And unfortunately, we see all day, every day in our clinic, we see people that are suffering with traction alopecia. And traction alopecia is irreversible. You will never grow hair. Very similar to the scars that trichotillomania bring. Traction alopecia brings the same type of scarring, so just be really careful. Okay, I know I'm not going to get everybody wearing hair extensions off hair extensions, so that's why again when I was creating Remi, I was like, how am I going to help people who want to strengthen their hair but like, you know, really rely, you know, on hair extensions to help them with that, you know. So definitely, definitely not just this. Like, you should be using the Spark Energizing shampoo. You should be like, literally Daily Anchor was made again to help people with hair extensions. If you want hair extensions, right, you already have them, right? But if you want hair extensions, you're thinking about them, you need strong hair to be able to hang something kind of almost semi-permanent off your hair. It needs to have strength, you know. So it's really important that you use serums, you know, to actually strengthen that hair and try and prevent the kind of breakage and stuff as well, you know. So Viv, we are punching the negativity out of our lives, Viv, aren't we? Punching it out. Another thing I want to talk about today, guys, right, while I had you, is in Scalp School, because this is what this is. Every Thursday, we're going to try and give you a little bit of education on your scalp. So it's not just all about selling products here. It's about trying to educate you and for you to make the right choices for your scalp and for your hair, of course, as well, you know, and really deeply understand what it is that we're trying to achieve here, you know. And people ask me all the time, you know, what are the signs of a healthy scalp? What are the signs of an unhealthy scalp, right? So an unhealthy scalp is a scalp that is losing hair, okay, that is shedding hair, the hair is getting thinner and finer, okay, that there's a decline in the hair. That's a sign of unhealthy scalp, right? Also, another sign of an unhealthy scalp would be a scalp that had any sort of inflammation. Inflammation is dry skin, is too much oil, or is dandruff, psoriasis, eczema, seborrheic dermatitis. That is a sign for me as a trichologist to say, you know, there's something going on here. And normally, all of that something is down here, okay, underneath the scalp surface. But we see it up here, don't we? So we see hair loss here, we see dandruff here, we see dry scalp here, psoriasis here, but this problem is actually down here. So it's so important that you understand that, you know. An unhealthy scalp as well, if somebody tells me that they only wash their hair once a week, I don't have to see their scalp. I don't need to understand anything else except for the fact that their scalp is unhealthy, you know. It's not performing at its maximum. What I would say is like, and there's plenty of people who will prove me wrong on this, right? There will be plenty of people that will say, no, Claire, like I wash my hair once a week and they have the most fabulous head of hair in the world. There's a few unicorns out there, you know, and they're probably 25, they're probably 30, right? But if you continue to do that to your scalp, you will see the implications of that in your 40s, 50s, and beyond, you know. And those habits that you set really early on, I can't tell you how much of an impact they have on your overall scalp health, you know. Somebody says to me, how can you tell a healthy scalp or an unhealthy scalp? That's definitely it. And again, it's the process. It's not always the products. It's like, how do you look after your scalp? How do you look after your hair? And it's nearly always those processes that you have to kind of take into consideration, you know? Okay, a question here from Lainey. A client asked me just there. So, what is the ideal amount of time to wash your hair? It really depends, right? So it depends. If you've got very, very fine hair, remember that you have 150,000 follicles. So then you have 150,000 sebaceous glands. So you are going to produce more oil than your friend down the street or your sister or your brother. Okay. So if you've got fine hair, honestly, without ever meeting you or seeing you, I would say that you should wash your hair at least every 2 days. Wash it every day if it gets oily. I have people come into our clinic all the time and they say, oh God, Claire, I have to wash my hair every day. And unfortunately, that's because they have fine hair and they're going to produce that oil. If you have very, very thick, coarse hair, coily, gorgeous, coily hair, curly hair, you probably have to wash your scalp less. But I really would say, even those people, I would say twice a week from a trichology point of view. And if I was being really kind to you and you were only 21, I'd probably say, okay, you can do it once a week. But it's so important to make sure that you're doing it regularly. Like your scalp is skin, you know, it's nothing to do with your hair. Your scalp is nothing to do with your hair. They are two different proteins. And, you know, the argument would be, well, I've got color in my hair or I've got extensions or I've got whatever else. So I'm trying to protect that curl. I'm trying to protect that extension. But you won't have enough health there if you don't do some of the things that a trichologist will ask you to do, you know. So definitely wash your scalp more than you probably think you should. You know, I have people, I'm so sorry, Claire, I wash my hair every day. I'm like, oh, I love you. That's exactly what we need. We need you to be washing your scalp regularly and put precautions into place. Like get a lovely hydrating conditioner, get a lovely, you know, repair if you're blonde or repair mask for your hair. Like balance out the damage a little bit. But again, your scalp health should come before anything else, you know. That's really, really important. Definitely, you know. A lot of people ask me about itchy scalp a lot, right? So why do I get an itchy scalp? Why does it happen to me? What's the story with it? What should I do with it, right? So an itchy scalp is normally signs of inflammation, okay? So again, you are feeling the implications up here. So you are feeling the symptoms up on top of your scalp, right? But again, an itchy scalp starts down here. So an itchy scalp can be psychological, right? People, that's a difficult one to explain to people. It's called trichodinea. So a lot of people will come to me and say, Claire, I wake up and my scalp is itching. I have to have a hair wash in the middle of the night because my scalp is so itchy. And then I examine their scalp and there's nothing there. Okay. And I have to say to them, like, have you ever heard of trichodinea, right? Which is a really, really difficult conversation to have with people because you're almost saying to them, like, you know, it's in your mind, it's in your imagination, which is really hard, isn't it? But when you start to lower someone's inflammation on their scalp, and again, have those really open and honest conversations, because an itchy scalp should have symptoms. I should see that your scalp is pink, that it's red, that it's scaly, that it's flaky, right? I should see that if you have an itchy scalp. If you have a completely clear scalp, but it's itchy, well, then there's another deeper problem that we kind of have to deal with, you know, and something that maybe I won't be able to completely help you with, but I can set you on the road to do that. But please don't ignore an itchy scalp. It's telling you something, you know, whether you have symptoms or not. So an itchy scalp, and you know what, like I think we sometimes as well, like would say, you know, like oh, like itchy scalp isn't that big of a deal. It's such a big deal. Like it's such a big deal for people. Like some people like really find it so upsetting. They find it like they're furious about it, you know. And if you've symptoms, like if you've flakes, like I know people who won't wear black, who don't want to go and do the job interview, don't want to do this, have to do so much preparation to clear their scalp to actually participate in life. So having an itchy, flaky scalp is really horrible. It's horrible for people, you know. But there's help out there. Like we can help you, you know? So please don't feel like you're on your own with that, you know? Like it's so important that you get the right advice. And sometimes the right advice isn't what your neighbor did and what he bought in Tesco's. Do you know that kind of way? Sometimes that is going to a professional, getting the right advice and understanding your scalp to the best of your ability, you know? So definitely an itchy scalp, do something about it, you know? Okay, really quickly. I don't know if anyone has questions, guys. Like, again, this is little scalp school. So if there's any questions from the class, I'm going now in a few minutes. So, I mean, please ask me a question if you have one. Really important, you know, to kind of try and answer your questions, try and kind of educate as much as possible on your scalp care. Um, Also, just a little story from the clinic, right? So this week I met a woman and she came into the clinic, and again, she'd really itchy scalp. Okay, really itchy scalp. And we went through everything with her, right? She had no symptoms, so no flaking, no redness, no anything. And she was using like decent product, you know, she was using decent product. But she was using a product that had watermelon scent inside it, right? So we started going through all this, and she didn't know it was watermelon, right? Because the photograph, the little picture of the watermelon actually was a bit arseways on the bottle. So when I went through it and when I read the back of the bottle, I knew it didn't say watermelon fragrance. It didn't say, it had a different name, which I can't pronounce. But she didn't know that, you know? And she's allergic to watermelon. So that's what was making her scalp itchy. So to just literally sort it like that, you know. Now also she was going through perimenopause as well. So I'd say there was a little bit of allergic to the watermelon, but also hormones too. Do you know? So like again, like that, like please don't treat a trichologist like I'm just gonna book in with a trichologist and my hair falls out. Okay. You should book in with a trichologist. I think like if you love your hair, you should be booking in and just keeping it there. The same way as I get my moles mapped every year. You know, I go and I make sure that my moles are the same and that I don't have anything to worry about. And when I leave that appointment, I'm relieved. Aren't you? Like you're so relieved. So when you leave a trichology appointment, I don't want to just, you know, people leaving with bad news and like worry. I like majority of the time people feel so relieved when they talk to a trichologist, you know, because there's a plan in place now. I'm in a level of control now, you know. I, you know, understand so much more than I did before I came in here. And a trichologist is such a, especially the ones that we have here in Trua, is such a good resource for that, you know. But those little things that possibly you haven't read too much into, or that like your hairdresser doesn't, you know, like didn't have the education for, that's what we want to do, you know, and kind of pass that information on to you as much as possible. But yeah, my hair is it breaks easily. Savannah, how do I fix that? Okay, really quick question here. So good question. My hair breaks easily, right? So you have fragile hair. What I would say as well is a blood test isn't a bad idea when we're talking about hair breakage, right? Because it can be something really simple like a vitamin C deficiency. A lot of people have vitamin C deficiencies, and that will produce very porous dry hair. So if your hair is very dry, like think of anything that's really dry, it's going to be more prone to breakage. So just I would say you don't need to rush to the GPs, you don't need to rush to a trichology clinic and get a blood test. Next time you're doing it, just check your vitamin C levels, okay? Most people spend a fortune down here, right, on breakage, but that's already dead. So all you're doing there is putting lipstick on a corpse, right? If you're using, sorry about that now, but if you're using hair care to treat that, this is the best thing you can do for hair breakage, right? Because what Daily Anchor will do is it will, because you've exfoliated your scalp, okay, it will go all the way deep down to the end. Where's my little follicle here? Here, okay? And it's going to swell that anchor, right? The fatter those anchors are, guys, the more they will stay in the scalp, and it will produce hair that can stay in the scalp for longer, but become more resilient. So this isn't a quick fix, okay? No scalp care is. but it is a way for you to improve your hair texture, your hair resilience over time. So using something like this every day is so important, you know. So yeah, long term, but worth the investment. We're going to go, I think, guys. Thank you so much. That was our first little scalp school. Nothing really went wrong there, so that was good. Thanks so much for joining us, and we will be back next Thursday.